Trade rumors are starting to escalate for the New York Rangers and GM Chris Drury, as one star player in the league has just become available. And with the New York Rangers probably having to make a move in the near future, this could be a trade that could have serious implications for the organization. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Rangers Digest. But before we do, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 70% of you who watch our videos are not actually subscribed to the channel. So if you want to do yourself a favor, hit that subscribe button. It's free and you get to stay up to date with everything New York Rangers. And a quick shout out to everybody who has subscribed and continues to follow the ride here on Rangers Digest, on, all the daily Rangers news. We really appreciate you, and I see you all in the comments and liking the videos, and I really appreciate the support. And now I know what you're thinking. You saw, the thumbnail of the video, the title, you're thinking, no. You're thinking, no, I don't want this. And I might tend to agree with that, but we're going to deep dive into this and see how this could actually work out for the New York Rangers. Obviously, the Pittsburgh Penguins, they're not playing well. And it seems like there's going to be a fire sale there with Kyle Dubas kind of trying to trade everybody away to, fast track a rebuild, even though they probably should have started a couple of years ago, which leaves everyone on the table besides Sidney Crosby. We've heard that in reports the last couple of days. And this is from Ron. Pittsburgh loses again tonight, and they may start, and they did actually lose that game. They may start thinking of their future with 4 older superstars. When thinking New York Rangers, I believe Malkin would fit really well with Panarin to make another run at the Stanley Cup. That would mean moving Trouba's salary space. Thoughts? Now, probably moving Trouba's salary space, but not entirely. And we'll get into the salary cap situation in just a moment. The Rangers could move some assets to obviously retain some salary and make it work, but we'll get into that later in the video. But what do you think, first of all? Let me know in the comments what you think of Evgeni Malkin coming to the New York Rangers. That'd be pretty crazy, but it could actually make some sense. I think it's a little bit expensive, and it might take a little bit too much work, and they could probably go out and get another option that would fit the team better, so they wouldn't have to move too much salary out. But I think it's very interesting. And this is from Blue Shirt Bulletin. Malkin is one of those players you could always see putting on a New York Rangers sweater in their career. The Penguins are in a tough position. They should rebuild, but can they? And I think that's the other question, because Evgeni Malkin, and I thought this was a very interesting article, was reacting to trade rumors and all that, and he doesn't want to leave Pittsburgh. He has a no movement clause, and he actually does not want to leave Pittsburgh. But I think, when it really comes down to it, if he has an opportunity to go to a contender, maybe win another Stanley Cup, and Pittsburgh really wants to move off of him and things sour, I could see him moving. And if he wants to go to a contender, the New York Rangers are a contender, and I mean, they could use some help, some depth at center. And now the fact that I said that, some of you might be going, what are you talking about? We'll get to that in a minute, because I think that they could actually add to their center depth. It could actually be really good for the team, but I think it was very interesting. And again, from Ron, I don't see them trading Crosby or Letang. I think that's true, unless they want to be traded, which I don't think that's true. I don't think they want to leave Pittsburgh, but Malkin is more likely ready. Carlson wants a cup opportunity, all big money, but we'll see if they're going to be able to trade him. Carlson has no ties in Pittsburgh. He just got there, so I could see him being traded, not to the Rangers, but just in general. But Malkin, I think, could be a guy on the move as well. I think that's a very interesting thing. And here, this article says it, and this is what I've been thinking too. The Rangers could, be in need of a center. They could be in need. And obviously, they have some pretty good center depth right now. Mika Zibanejad, right? When he's playing and he's on his game, he's really good. We haven't seen it the last couple of years, but, can he get back to that level? We'll see. It remains to be seen, but he is starting to pick it up this season. Obviously, Vincent Trocheck, fantastic. No notes for me. But when you go to the third line center position, the Rangers simply, I think the fact of the matter is, Filip Chytil is probably their best player 5-on-5 this year. Maybe him and Will Cooley, right? But the fact of the matter is, he obviously has some health issues, right? The last couple of years, and this could become a problem. He's out again now. It doesn't seem likely that he'll return to tonight's game against the Calgary Flames, but he should be back in the lineup soon. But when the games get more physical, and yes, he did return last year after missing a lot of time in the playoffs, but didn't play too much. When the games get more physical in the playoffs, this could be an issue. This could be cause for concern. So they maybe might be looking at more center depth. And Malkin, I mean, he would slot right up in the lineup. I don't think if you get Malkin, he's going to the third line. I think you'd have to rejig the lineup a little bit. Maybe you even move Zibanejad to the wing. I don't know. There's lots you can kind of play with there. But on the prospect of Malkin and what he can add to the Rangers in terms of center depth, I mean, he's one of the Penguins on a bad team, one of their best players, and a real bright spot this year, a real resurgence season for the 38-year-old. And yes, he's a little bit older. We'll get to, some contract stuff in a minute, but 21 games so far this season, 19 points. He's almost point a game player at 38 still. I mean, it's pretty good. He's having a great year. He's playing a lot. I don't put too much into plus minus. The Penguins are terrible. I wouldn't say it's his fault necessarily. I think it's just the way the team is built and their age, but he could be a really good piece on a contending team. This is a guy who can still play the game at a very, very elite level. So I think he could make some sense for the New York Rangers. The fans might be scoffing at me saying that, but I think it could make some sense. But the salary, this is what we got to talk about now. It's very interesting, and we'll get into, where he could slot up into the lineup as well. I mean, right now, which he'd allow. I mean, imagine you have Evgeni Malkin there in the third line. That's amazing. I would imagine that he would slot up a little bit higher. Maybe you move Trocheck down, but obviously you don't want to mess with any chemistry there either. But, Panarin and Malkin together would be awesome. That would be just so much fun to watch. And, on top of everything, I mean, the Pittsburgh Penguins and the New York Rangers have some trade history recently, with Riley Smith being traded last offseason and the Penguins retaining some salary. So that's something I wanted to get into now as well. So if you look at the cap situation for Evgeni Malkin, so he signed for one more year. He has this year and one more year after that. So it's going to take him to about 40 years old. And I think that is a little bit concerning, but he is playing at a very elite level still on a bad team. So I think if you put him on a very good team, this is a guy who's still playing at an elite level. Like, in the league, if you're looking at what Ovi's doing, right? Like, these guys are older, they're getting older, but they're still putting up crazy numbers, and they're still some of the best players in the league. So if he was on a better team, I think he could find some more use and it wouldn't look as bad. But the cap hit is bad and it won't work for the Rangers. Now, they can try and move off of Trouba. I don't think the Pittsburgh Penguins are going to want Trouba. But if you look at obviously they also can't retain salary. They've used all their spots, including one with Riley Smith, right? So they've used all the retained spots. So they're going to have to get a third team involved, and obviously there might be some prospects coming out. But I think that would be very interesting if they were able to retain salary somehow, or another team were able to, because then that would make a lot more sense. But even with no retained salary, you only have 1 year left after this one. Jacob Trouba has the same contracts, and you're looking to move off of Jacob Trouba anyway. So I wonder if the Pittsburgh Penguins are okay with taking on Jacob Trouba's contract, but at the same time, even if you were going to get Evgeni Malkin without Jacob Trouba and the salary cap didn't exist, you're going to have to give up a prospect. And the Pittsburgh Penguins want, instead of draft picks or prospects, they would like NHL ready players, but the Rangers are in no position to give up any NHL ready players. I mean, I wouldn't trade a lot of the players on this team. I wouldn't move anyone off of the first two lines, or I don't think you can anyway. And I certainly wouldn't move anyone off the third line. No one on the fourth line is going to, get any interest. But when you look at the prospects, like, would people be okay with moving off of Gabe Perreault? I don't know if I'm too comfortable with that, right? For a guy like Malkin, who you're only going to get a year and a half out of. Brett Berard, I don't think I'm comfortable with that either, because a lot of these guys are going to come up and be really good players in just a couple of years. So there is a couple prospects I think that they could take a look at and be comfortable moving, because I think Evgeni Malkin would put you over the top if you're the Rangers. But again, I feel like there's a lot of moving parts. Malkin makes a lot of money. You would have to probably move Jacob Trouba in this trade to make things work, because if you don't, you have to get a third team involved. Then you have to give assets to a third team. So there is a lot of moving parts. And I would say that, it's very interesting to look at. And would it make them a better team? I do believe that. For sure, it would make them a better team. And I think Malkin is underrated defensively, and he knows how to play in the playoffs. I think he just doesn't show it on a bad team right now in the regular season. I think he can put you over the top. That being said, I'm not sure this is a good idea for the New York Rangers. And I do believe that there are some other options that, around the league, they can get to fill in that third line center position if they wanted to bolster it, or even get another guy in the wing. Maybe you like I even said, move somebody else that they already have to the wing, kind of play with it. But I do think that that is something to think about. Is Chytil going to be healthy enough with what he's dealing with come playoff time when the games get more physical? Do you want insurance there? I think that's something to think about. But at the end of the day, I think Malkin's maybe a little bit too pricey, a little bit too old. But I think it's interesting, and I think that if they wanted to make it work, it could work, salary in, salary out. I think you'd have to sweeten the pot a lot for the Pittsburgh Penguins, of course, if they were to move off this guy, because it can get a lot from a lot of other teams, a lot of other contenders as well. So very interesting. He also has final say in Pittsburgh. If he doesn't want to go, he doesn't have to go. So I don't think it's a good idea for the Rangers, but I do think it's interesting. I do think it would make the team better, and they could get creative if they wanted to do something like that. And it would actually save them salary, but obviously you're going to lose a prospect or a pretty good player in the process. But let me know what you think in the comments of Evgeni Malkin possibly coming to the New York Rangers. Obviously, the rumors are starting to escalate league-wide because a lot of players have become available, and the Rangers could be in the mix for a few of them. But if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.